For 10 years, my husband, a man the world saw as a saint, erased me. He did it so slowly, so quietly, that I didn't even realize I was disappearing. I became a ghost in my own life, a beautiful object in his perfect house. And then, one rainy afternoon, a forgotten piece of paper from my first husband gave me the key to my escape. Hi everyone. I'm Grandma Eleanor. I'm 78 years old, and I am speaking to you today from my own little apartment in a city I chose, drinking a cup of tea that I bought with my own money. These may seem like small things to you, but to me, they are miracles. For a decade, I was married to a man who controlled every aspect of my life, all while convincing me, and everyone else, that he was the most loving husband in the world. This isn't a story of fists and broken bones. It's a story about a different kind of violence, a quiet, insidious poison of the soul. I have never told the full story of my second marriage to anyone. I was too ashamed. I felt like a fool for letting it happen. But now, I know the shame was never mine to carry. It's time to put it down. Before I take you back to the beginning, I'd be so grateful if you would press that like button and subscribe. It tells me that stories like mine, the quiet ones, the ones that happen behind polished front doors, deserve to be heard. Thank you. My story started, not with a tragedy, but with a love story. My first husband, William, was the love of my life. We were high school sweethearts. He was a kind, funny, gentle man, a history teacher who could make the past come alive. We had 2 wonderful children, a small but happy home, and 40 years of shared laughter and quiet understanding. When he passed away from cancer, it felt like the sun had gone out. My world turned gray. I was 65 years old, a widow, rattling around in a house full of memories. My children were grown and had families of their own. I was lonely, a deep, aching loneliness that felt like a permanent chill in my bones. A year later, my friends introduced me to Dr. Arthur Croft. And let me tell you, Arthur was like a character from a classic movie. He was a retired surgeon, tall, silver-haired, impeccably dressed, with a deep, calming voice and eyes that seemed to look right into you and understand everything. He was intelligent, worldly, and charming. He quoted poetry. He brought me flowers. He listened, truly listened, to my stories about William. And he would say, "A love like that is a rare gift, Eleanor. You were so lucky to have had it." He swept me off my feet. He made me feel alive again, interesting again. After a year of quiet courtship, he proposed. My children were thrilled. "Mom, he's wonderful. He adores you. You deserve to be happy again," they said. My friends all said the same. And I believed it. I walked down the aisle at 66, feeling like the luckiest woman in the world, ready for a new chapter of peace and companionship. I had no idea I was walking into the most elegant, comfortable, and soul-crushing prison imaginable. The change was like a shift in the climate, so gradual you almost don't notice it until you're shivering all the time. After we were married, Arthur suggested we sell both our houses and buy a new one together. "A fresh start for us, my love," he said. "No ghosts." It sounded so romantic. We bought a beautiful, modern house in an exclusive neighborhood, an hour away from my old town, from my friends, from the life I knew. The first brick in my prison wall was laid, and I called it beautiful. Then came the finances. Arthur, with his surgeon's logic, said it was inefficient for us to have separate accounts. "Darling, let me handle everything," he said, his voice smooth as honey. "You've managed budgets and bills your whole life. It's time for you to relax. Let me take care of you." It felt like a gift, a relief. So I signed the papers that merged all my assets, the inheritance from William, the proceeds from our old house, everything, into a joint account that he managed. Soon after, the allowance started. Every Monday morning, he would place 2 $20 bills in a little porcelain dish on the hall table. "For your little coffees and things, my dear," he'd say with a benevolent smile. The first time, I was confused. I was a woman who had managed a household budget for 40 years. But I said nothing. What could I say? Thank you, Arthur, I would murmur, my cheeks burning with a shame I couldn't name. I was a wealthy woman, on paper, being given pocket money like a child. His control was a masterpiece of subtlety. It was never a command, always a suggestion wrapped in love. My cooking, which William and my children had always praised, was suddenly subject to critique. My darling, that's a lovely roast, but perhaps a touch less salt next time. For my blood pressure, you understand. My clothes were next. That color is a little bright for a woman of your elegance, don't you think, Eleanor? Muted tones are so much more sophisticated. My opinions, too. In public, if I began to tell a story, he would gently interrupt. Now, Eleanor, darling, you're getting the details confused again, he would say with a chuckle to our new friends. Her memory is a little whimsical sometimes. He would then retell my story, correctly, elegantly, while I sat there, silenced, feeling foolish and small. Was I really that forgetful? Was my taste in clothes that garish? Was my cooking that bad? I began to doubt myself. It was like a slow poison. I was a frog in a pot of slowly boiling water, and I didn't even feel the heat rising. He isolated me with the same quiet precision. When my old friends would call, he would answer the phone. Eleanor is resting, I'm afraid. She gets tired so easily these days. If they came to visit, he would be impeccably polite, but he would hover, steering the conversation, answering for me, until their visits became shorter, and then stopped altogether. The house was always filled with his friends, his colleagues, people who saw him as the brilliant, charming Dr. Croft, and me as his quiet, slightly faded, but devoted wife. I was an accessory to his perfect life. I became a ghost. I stopped calling my children as often, because I had nothing to tell them. My days were empty, a series of silent, pointless routines in a beautiful, sterile house. I would wander from room to room, touching the expensive furniture, looking at the art on the walls that he had chosen, and I would feel nothing. I was living in a museum of a life, not a life itself. The woman I had been, the competent, funny, lively Eleanor, was gone. In her place was a quiet, anxious woman who second-guessed every thought and was terrified of using too much salt. I would look in the mirror, and a stranger would look back, a stranger with sad, empty eyes. And the worst part? The most insidious part? I believed it was my fault. I thought I was failing him. I thought I was simply not good enough to be the wife of such a wonderful, perfect man. After nearly 10 years of this silent erosion, the breaking point came. It wasn't a dramatic fight. It was a Tuesday. A rainy, gray Tuesday. Arthur had a board meeting in the city, and I had to go to the grocery store. The porcelain dish on the hall table was empty. I had to ask him for money. The humiliation was a physical thing, a hot stone in my stomach. He sighed, a theatrical sigh of loving exasperation, and handed me a $100 bill. Try to make it last, darling, he said, patting my hand. At the grocery store, I was pushing my cart down the aisle, my mind a fog of brand names and prices, when I heard a voice. Eleanor? Eleanor Bennett? My God, is that you? I turned, and there was Susan, my best friend from my old life, my maid of honor at my first wedding. I hadn't seen her in at least 8 years. She looked wonderful, vibrant, full of life. We hugged, and when she pulled back, she held me at arm's length, and her smile faded. Her eyes scanned my face, and I saw a look of profound shock, and then deep, aching pity. Eleanor, what has he done to you? And in that moment, seeing my own reflection in the eyes of someone who had known the real me, the dam broke. It wasn't what she said. It was how she looked at me. She wasn't looking at the elegant Mrs. Croft. She was looking at a victim. And for the first time, I saw it too. I saw the last 10 years not as a series of my own failings, but as a deliberate campaign. The move. The money. The insults disguised as concern. The isolation. It was all a strategy. A strategy to own me. I mumbled some excuses to Susan and fled the store, leaving the half-full cart in the aisle. I drove home, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. But for the first time in a decade, my mind was crystal clear. The fog had lifted. The boiling water was suddenly scalding hot. That evening, I didn't say a word. I played my part. The quiet, obedient wife. But inside, a revolution had begun. I was no longer a victim. I was a prisoner, planning my escape. But how? He controlled everything. I had $40 to my name. The answer came from a ghost. A few days later, while cleaning out a dusty filing cabinet in the guest room, a task he had assigned me, I found an old manila folder. It was filled with papers from my old life, things that had been packed away and forgotten. And inside, at the very bottom, was a United States savings bond. It had been a gift from William on our 25th anniversary. A rainy day bond for $10,000 he had bought and told me to hide away, just in case. It had matured years ago, and it was in my name, alone. Eleanor Bennett, not Eleanor Croft. My hands trembled as I held it. It was a voice from the past, from a man who had truly loved me. It was a key. My awakening was complete. My action was as silent and methodical as his abuse had been. I used my allowance money to take a bus into my old town. I went to a bank where no one knew Arthur and opened a new account in my maiden name, using the bond as the initial deposit. Over the next 2 months, I made secret trips. I found a small furnished apartment for rent. I paid the deposit and first month's rent in cash. I slowly, carefully, packed one suitcase with my most treasured possessions, photos of William and my children, my mother's jewelry, the books I love. I hid the suitcase in the back of my closet, under a pile of old blankets he would never touch. The day I chose to leave was a Wednesday. He was playing golf with his surgeon friends, as he did every Wednesday. I called a taxi. I loaded my one suitcase. I took one last look at the beautiful sterile house that had been my prison. I felt no sadness, only a profound, quiet relief. I left a note on the polished hall table, right next to the empty porcelain dish. It was very short. It said, "Arthur, I have gone to find Eleanor Bennett. I believe you have met her once, a very long time ago. Goodbye." I settled into my little apartment. I bought my own groceries. I called my old friend, Susan. I called my children, and for the first time in 10 years, I told them the truth. Not all of it, not at first, but enough. They were shocked, horrified, and full of guilt for not seeing it sooner. But they rallied around me. The consequence for Arthur was not public ruin. The world still saw him as the charming Dr. Croft. But I know what he lost. He lost his most prized possession. His perfect, silent, obedient wife. His control. I heard through my son that he was bewildered, telling everyone I'd had some sort of nervous breakdown. But he was a king without a kingdom, a puppet master without his puppet. His perfect life now had a gaping, unexplained hole in it. That was his punishment. The lesson I learned, my dears, is that the most dangerous prisons are the ones we don't recognize. They are built with words of love and bars of concern. You can lose yourself so slowly you don't even notice you're gone. And I learned that your true self is never really gone. It's just waiting. Waiting for you to remember it. Waiting for you to come home to it. My advice to you, to anyone listening who feels their light being dimmed by someone else, who is told they are too sensitive or too emotional, trust your gut. It is your most honest compass. You are not crazy. Your feelings are valid. You do not need to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Your happiness is not a negotiation. It is your birthright. Thank you for letting me share this quiet corner of my life with you. It feels good to finally give a voice to the ghost I used to be. If this story resonated with you, please share it. You never know who might need to hear that they are not alone. And please subscribe for more stories. Love, Grandma Eleanor. See you in the next story.